Dano seasoning is changing the world one table at a time by offering the best all-natural, low-sodium seasoning products on the market. Dano's goals are to provide you with real flavors to make healthier food choices without ever having to sacrifice the real taste. Dano's includes low sodium, which is only 50 milligrams per serving. It has all natural, unrefined sea salt. There's no sugar, no MSG, no chemicals, and it's completely gluten-free. Also, there's 100% natural ingredients. Dano seasoning is the most versatile seasoning on the market. Grill, smoke, bake, create soups, sauces, marinades. You can also sprinkle Danos on your eggs, your potatoes, maybe some pizza, maybe some pasta, and even while you're watching a movie, sprinkle some Danos on popcorn. Heck, if you're crazy, why don't you put some Danos on ice cream? Any food that exists, you can put some Danos on it. Go to danoseasoning.com, use my promo code HODGEPODGE, capital H and a capital P in Hodgepodge. Guys, remember to do that. Just like the spelling of the podcast, a capital H and a capital P in Hodgepodge. You can try all three flavors, which include original, spicy, and hot chipotle right now today. It's damn good. Yum yum. Get you some. I have finally watched all 41 of the Dreamworks Animation Studios films, and today we're going to rank them from least to best, from number 41 to number 1. And it's going to be a long episode, so there's going to be some of these movies that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on at all. And there are some that I'm going to spend a little bit more time on, but I'm going to try to keep them fairly short for what I can. So let's rank them right now. At number 41, coming in last on the list, we've got Abominable. This was the last movie that I needed to watch to complete this list of watching the movies. And this was a tough one to watch. You're thinking Abominable Snowman is going to be kind of cool, but then you also realize that they're kidding it up, and it was the story was not there. I didn't find no kind of comedic relief in it. I just kind of found it a very flail of a movie. At number 40, we've got Trolls World Tour. And the reason this is not last is because this had some great music and music scenes in it, I guess you could say. It is far away from the first one. The first one was just magnificent and was fairly good for a child movie, but the second one was kind of and you're gonna see a lot of this, and I saw a lot of this in the DreamWorks movies today. Just how bad the sequels usually are. So, yeah, number 40 is Trolls World Tour. Not the greatest. 39 coming in is The Boss Baby Family Business. The first Boss Baby was a movie that I did not think needed to be made. I thought it was boring, but a lot better than some of these other ones that I'm going to put on here. So it is ranked a little bit higher. But I don't think it needed a sequel. I think they just did a sequel because the first one made so much money in the theaters, honestly. So the first one was filled with a bunch of somewhat comedic hijinks coming from a child who can talk. And then this one was just that amped up times 10. And I don't think it needed to be made at all. Number 37, we've got one of the worst animated movies to ever be created, in my opinion, and that's Home. By a little purple alien who comes across this little African-American girl, and she tries to send him back home. So they took E.T., and they morphed it into a cartoon with Sheldon Cooper as the voice, which I think this made the movie worse, I think, because I'm not gonna diss on Jim Parsons here, because his voice is not made for. His voice is great for a nerd, but I don't think it was great for a cartoon character using the same voice. Now, if he could have used a different voice and mimicked the character or something, instead of just using the regular Jim Parsons voice, then maybe it would have worked a little bit better. But I'm nitpicking because sometimes we have to do that to find major flaws in the movie, and this was just something that his voice was just something that I could not get over the fact that this guy is Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory. That's really what it comes down to. Next, number 36, we've got Mr. Peabody and Sherman. This movie is boring as shit, okay? They used to have a little cartoon that used to come on, I think the WB back in the day. And that's where I would watch all the classic cartoons. Like the WB would have Animaniacs. It would have the original Ninja Turtles and the original Transformers and the original He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And this would just come on just random in the day. And I remember enjoying the cartoon as a kid. It was somewhat excited to watch the movie. And then I realized what they did, and they just made this boring. The plot did not interest me. The characters didn't interest me. It wasn't funny. So, yeah, number 36, Mr. Peabody and Sherman. Next on the list was actually a movie that I was somewhat excited for. I can't say I was over the moon excited for it. Spirit Untamed is at number 35. Because Spirit, the Stallion of the Cimarron, the first movie, is ranked high up there on my list as one of my favorites. And so I was somewhat excited to see what they were going to do with the newish one they were coming out with. And you know, I liked it to a certain extent, but I also didn't like it, because if you're making a sequel many years after the first one, then it better be as good, or it better be so different that it's good. And this was okay. It was not so different that it was good, but it was also not very good. I feel that they didn't keep the same pace as the first Spirit movie. I felt that they there were some major points that they should have hit in the movie that they didn't hit, and I think they swerved and they hit curves so they didn't have to do it. So that's the only reason that it's there. Next is Wallace and Gromit, Curse of the Were-Rabbit. I don't know what it is about these movies. I have never been a fan of the Wallace and Gromits. I love claymation movies, but this for me was it. I do not like these Wallace and Gromit movies at all. I do think this is the better one, so that's why it's ranked a little bit higher on here than some of the other ones. So, yeah. Number 33, The Boss Baby. I said it was not going to be that high up on the list, but it was higher than the second one. I just felt this movie too kiddish. Now, people would be like, well, it's a kid movie. It's supposed to be kid. No, because who is taking the kids to see the movie? The parents. The parents are normally going to watch the movie, because unless you're just a jerk and you're going to have your phone out the whole time and disrupt the whole movie. But they should have taken this, and they should have done it a different way, but they didn't. And you see, I'm barely using anything. I'm trying to not spoil any of these movies. But it was funny. I'll give it that. But here's my thing about it. I don't like Alec Baldwin as the voice. I don't like him as the voice of the Boss Baby. The story is cool. I give it that. But is it rewatchable? Not to me. Number 32, Rise of the Guardians. This movie was what I expected to be a cool movie. I can't remember what I was watching a long time ago. I went and watched the movie in the theaters, and this trailer come out, and I was like, "Oh man, this is gonna be cool." It has, mythical creatures. It has all these different things, but the movie turned out to be just a flop. It was boring. Wasn't funny. It wasn't interesting. It had no characters that you could relate to. The toy line that came out with fucking sucked. So Rise of the Guardians was a big for me. Number 31, a lot of people are going to disagree with, but I think this is the worst of the movies here, of the franchises, and that is Shrek the Third. Coming off of Shrek 2, just how phenomenal Shrek 2 was, they had a lot of upping to do, because when you make a sequel, you expect it to be better and make more money than the previous one. Sure, Shrek the Third made more money than Shrek 2, but I think this is where the movies get weird, because if you think about it, generally with trilogies, right? Trilogies we're talking. The first one's fantastic. The second one's not good. The third one's better than the second one, but gets crapped on in the theaters and the box office because the second one wasn't good, and they compared the third one to the second one. I think this... I don't know what they did with Shrek the Third. I didn't care about the prince. I didn't care about any of that, because if the prince was there, where was he at in the fourth one? Like, this was just the wizard eating the rocks. None of that was comparable to any of the other Shrek movies. As you can tell, the Shrek movies are those that are so phenomenal to me. It was not as good as Shrek Forever After, but Shrek Forever After is not as good as the other two. So I put it here because this is where I think it ranks compared to all the other movies that are above it because of certain reasons, and I think Shrek the Third was just held at such a higher rank that it possibly could not be better than what it was. Okay, put it that way. Number 30, How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. I think this also got hit with the other ones were so freaking good, and that this one we have to make it better, and they just try too hard. So that's why it's at 30. And I just think they tried too hard with the newest How to Train Your Dragon, and they didn't succeed. Number 29, Penguins of Madagascar. Now, if you would have come to me years ago when the first Madagascar come out, and they'd be like, "Hey, we're going to make a movie about the stupid penguins here," I would have said, "You're stupid, because the penguins are not that interesting to me." In this movie, they are. I think they even made like a spin-off Nickelodeon TV show on the penguins, because Madagascar is up there as one of my favorites as well. But here's the thing. I don't think it needed a spin-off. I think a TV series was fine. But now, The Penguins of Madagascar was a good movie. It's kind of like when they did Despicable Me, and then they took the Minions from Despicable Me and made an entire movie. But that's because the Minions are memorable in Despicable Me. They're funny. They're this. They're that. They're what made the movie. So why not? But with the Penguins of Madagascar, I just think they're there for the comedic entertainment and a little bit of... the story needs to be a little bit longer. So let's add some penguins in here that are actually, trying to get back. And I don't think the characters were worthy of a spinoff. The movie itself, though, despite what I think that my feelings towards needing a spinoff, the movie was actually okay. We're now in the okay territory of the okay movies. Penguins was okay. It was fine. Not going to necessarily rewatch it, but I was not disappointed after I watched it. I did laugh a little bit, but don't think I needed a spinoff. 28 and 27. I'm going to give these to you real quick because I frankly don't really remember these movies, and that's probably why they're here. I just stuck them in the middle somewhere, and that's The Prince of Egypt and The Road to El Dorado. I do enjoy watching those types of. It's kind of like a biblical animated thing, and they just throw different things at you. I do enjoy those to a certain extent. But I just think this movie, especially Road to El Dorado, they missed a lot in it. And they went from creating, they went from doing like Shrek and animal type animated to making these human animated things before that was a thing. So that's why they're there. All right, number 26, Puss in Boots. And the reason this is here, despite I wanted to see a Puss in Boots spin-off TV series something, because the way he comes in Shrek 2 is it's so nonchalant and you don't really understand where this guy comes from. You realize he's a like a mercenary, he's these different things, and I find that very interesting. And obviously from Mexico City, he has the Antonio Banderas, accent, and I wanted to see where this guy came from. They gave it to us a little bit, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and they also gave us a little bit of the Puss in Boots comedic gestures and the Puss in Boots kindness gestures. They put it all into one film, and I think if the Penguins of Madagascar would have been this, or would have been something like this, then maybe I would have liked it a little bit more. But Puss in Boots is at 26. And number 25, Kung Fu Panda 2. This is where I was talking about where the first one was so freaking good. The second one comes. The second one's not that good. The third one comes, and the third one's better than the second one. The story for this one was lost on me. The story for this was lost because I don't know where they lost me. They lost me a little bit. They forgot they were in reality, I think. I understand it's an animated movie, but there are certain things that you can't put into an animated movie and make kids believe. And I think that's kind of where Kung Fu Panda 2 comes in play. And I think they fixed that in the third one. Number 24, Turbo. A lot of people did not like this movie. I liked it a lot better than the other ones, and I'll tell you why. Not only is Ryan Reynolds the voice, but they took a concept of slow as a snail, and they said, well, what if we make these snails racers? And they use boosts, and they're actually fast. See, that's where you come in, and that's where you get me. You sneak it in at me, and I love when they do that stuff. They take play on words, and they make it literal, and it was another one that did that the most, I think, would be like Monsters University, which was a stupid movie, but how they had the slug or the snail, and the time he got to school, it was like spring break, and the time we go back, it would be like the next year in school. So I find that I find those things like that very funny and very appreciative of that. Number 23, Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas. Now, I've realized this from Dreamworks. They do a lot of second titles. Instead of just going Sinbad, they have to do a semicolon pre-title, post-title, It's kind of hard to take care of. Why don't you just go How to Train Your Dragon 2, How to Train Your Dragon 3, whatever. But Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas. This was my childhood, really. I mean, a lot of people are dissing on it by how bad it was, but the story was great. the story of Sinbad, the real story of Sinbad, is a little bit portrayed in. They do it a little bit, but they kind of have to dumb it down for the kids. Not dumb it down, but they kind of have to not go so as dark for the kids. But the acting in this, the voice acting in this was great. The story was, I enjoyed the story. And now that I'm talking about this, I should have put Sinbad up more higher than I did. Number 22, The Croods. You know, this is something we didn't have, and this is why this is here. Was not that good of a movie, but I'll give it to him. Cavemen. Coming up with something Disney did not think about doing until the stupid good dinosaur happened. But they took a caveman story and made it into this. And I think it was cool because they had the tiger and they made it. It reminded me of Far Cry Primal while watching this, which was a very cool feel. You got Nicolas Cage. You've got Ryan Reynolds in the movie. You've got, I think Emma Stone is in it. Maybe not. Anyways. But I thought the movie was very well done. I enjoyed it very much. 21. Madagascar 3. Europe's Most Wanted. This is kind of where we lost reality with the Madagascar movies. The first Madagascar, they go to New York City. Yeah, that's right. They leave the zoo and they go to New York City, right? They then get lost. They then try to get back to the zoo. And they wind up in Africa. They leave Africa to go back to the zoo. And they land in a fucking circus. And they stay in the circus as a circus act. They lost the story. They do not need a fourth one. This third one was absolutely garbage. And I'll tell you why it's so far up here. Because Madagascar holds a special place for me. But the comedy was good. The story was good despite me not liking the story. For personal taste, the story was good. A lot of new characters were introduced, which I think is okay in certain situations. I don't think they should make it an entire like Toy Story 4, for example. They took the doll and the other dinosaur from Toy Story 3 and they just made them main characters, which I'm not a fan of. I understand you have to age it today, but don't mess with something if it doesn't need it. Number 20, Shrek Forever After. I don't get the hype around this one. Now, this is way better than Shrek the Third. I did not like Shrek the Third at all. But this is way better than Shrek the Third. Shrek Forever After. If they decide to end it here, I will be a little upset because I don't think it put a happily ever after for Shrek. Sure, he figured out that, he wished he never had kids and he never met Fiona and he was just a stupid, ugly ogre now. And he figured out that there was other ogres in the world. And he fights Rumpelstiltskin to get his life back. All cool. And this is where Shrek comes in. The coolish factor is they take these fairy tales and they make them into a movie, which I think is absolutely brilliant. Rumpelstiltskin, he got his life back. Shrek Forever After is one of those that it was not as funny as the other Shreks. It was more serious. And I think that's kind of why I liked it a little bit more. it was not as goofy as the third one. I think the third one would just kind of went off the rails goofy and wasn't as good. But these movies make a crap ton of money, so someone's liking it. 19, the Bee Movie. This movie is pretty good. I like it. Jerry Seinfeld as a bee. Great voice acting work. I think the story was good. I liked to see that they live in this hive and they go to work and they took the hive literally and they said, look, let's make this one big workplace. These guys drive vehicles. They live in these little beehive houses. They actually have lives outside of work. I enjoyed that factor of the bees. So, yeah. I mean, I have no problem with it. I have no problem with the Bee Movie. I don't think there should necessarily be a sequel. I don't think there should be a Bee Movie 2. But I did enjoy the Bee Movie. 18. Trolls. And I'll tell you why this is so high up. It was not that good of a movie, but the culture smash when Trolls come out was unbelievably crazy. Like, it was like this. It was kind of the passion when Frozen came out. Because when Frozen came out, it was just such a gigantic movie, and this Trolls was as well. Trolls was a big one. They were playing the music everywhere. They were. I mean, it has Justin Timberlake in it. I mean, come on, how can you not like Justin Timberlake? And he did "Can't Stop the Feeling," which just blew up everywhere. So that's why Trolls is so high up on the list. Number 17, How to Train Your Dragon 2. This is one of those odd ones where they kind of get better with every movie. The first one by far is the best one, just because I think it's just a classic. How to Train Your Dragon 2 was not better than the first one, but it was as good as the first one. As far as the third one, which lacked a little bit of story for me and lacked the goodness factor of it. So How to Train Your Dragon 2, I really, really, really enjoyed it. Number 16 is going to surprise a lot of people. I used to read these books back in the day, and I used to love them. And then when I seen they were coming out with a movie, I was either in high school or just got out of high school. And I still watched it. I think I was out, because I think it came out in like 2018. And I was 2 years out of high school. So, yeah, I had just okay. But anyways, I watched it as a 20-year-old male, okay? I enjoyed it. It's funny. It was what you expected a Captain Underpants. Oh, it's Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. I didn't ever said that. 16, Captain Underpants. It was everything that you would want in a Captain Underpants comic novel turned into a movie. I enjoyed every bit of it. No flag on their part. Number 15, Ants. One word. Sylvester. Sylvester Stallone made this movie. This movie was great. A lot of people complain about Ants. I enjoyed Ants. I don't like it because it competed against A Bug's Life. I don't like it as much as A Bug's Life. But Ants is your typical insect animated movie. Was great. I really enjoyed Ants. I would watch it. I would watch it over. So that's where we're at now. Top 15 is now the next 5 or so are the next. I'd watch that again. It was pretty good. 14, Flushed Away. Again, I enjoy claymation. Flushed Away was kind of cool. These rats get flushed into a toilet, and they go into the sewage, and all these weird things happen in the sewage, and it makes you think, wow, this is what a sewage is really like, versus the Ninja Turtles' sewage. You're like, okay, this is their interpretation of what a sewage could be like in England or in a claymation world. I really enjoyed that. 13. Kung Fu Panda 3. Here we go. Third one better than the second one. Third one had a great story. I feel like after watching the third one, I feel Jack Black didn't really try hard enough in the second one. But for the third one, he just come hell on wheels for it. I don't know. The story was way better than the second one. The comedy was way better than the second one. I enjoyed it. Not as much as the first, but I enjoyed it. Number 12. Monsters vs. Aliens. This is a cool concept. Monsters, very simple, very simple. Monsters versus aliens. Great concept. Reese Witherspoon, Seth Rogen, Hugh Laurie, great cast. It was hilarious. It was such a good story that you kind of forgot that you were watching an animated movie, in my opinion. I feel it was so sci-fi-ish done that you were like, wow, this is great. Number 11, Madagascar Escape to Africa. This is where I was like, okay, I like what they're doing. They're going back into the second one, and they're in Africa. They're learning where they're from. They're learning how to cope with this environment rather than being raised in the zoo the whole life. The giraffe thinks that he's a fucking witch doctor. Melman thinks he's a witch doctor. The zebra, Marty, thinks that he is this God-chosen zebra. And he's the leader of the pack of the zebras. And then Alex is desperately wanting to learn from his father, who is not giving him anything, who is being a prick to him, who is doing this. And then you have the uncle. And if you guys go back and watch Escape to Africa, you're going to realize that this is just like The Lion King. They just changed it up a bit. That's all it is. Number 10, Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. I'll tell you why this is such greatness for me, because all these movies from 10 to 1 are unbelievably great, in my opinion. They took an animal and they didn't give it a voice. They made it a horse. You see what I'm saying? They didn't, like lions and zebras were talking. They didn't do that. They just made the people in the movie talk, and they made it real life into a cartoon. And I think that was the first time I saw that, and I said, oh my goodness, this is great. This is great. Number 9, Chicken Run. Again, I love claymation. Chicken Run is hilarious. I'm excited to see what they do with the second one. Don't know if I'm going to be such a big as a fan of it as I am the first one. But Chicken Run is hilarious. Coming from the minds of Wallace and Gromit, which I do not like, but for some reason I love the Chicken Run. It is a hilarious movie from start to end. It also has those big climaxes where you don't think it's going to happen. It's great. I mean, chickens in a chicken coop, for some reason it's amazing. Number 8, How to Train Your Dragon. This was cool, going back to medieval times. It was one of those movies where I was like, this movie's probably for nerds, because I'm thinking that it's going to be this. I don't know why, but for some reason I was thinking it was going to be this Digimon, Pokemon thing that I was not into. Never interests me. Fine movie, great movie. Number 7, Shark Tale. Again, this was facing Finding Nemo from Disney. Will Smith, Robert De Niro, Renee Zellweger, fantastic in this movie. Now, the only problem I do have, I don't like I don't like the fact that they gave fish money and they made them rich or poor. I don't like that, because if you're comparing it to Finding Nemo, which you shouldn't, they're just fish and they're living their life. But this was, oh, you're broke, well, you're going to be losing your house. They kind of lost reality a little bit there. Number 6, Over the Hedge. I love this movie. This movie could have easily been in my top 5, but number 5 took it over. Over the Hedge is cool. The raccoon steals a bunch of food from the villain, and he has to take all this food and get it by a certain time. It's funny. You got the squirrel. You've got, I think his name is Hammy. You've got Bruce Willis as the raccoon. You've got the possum family. You've got the turtle. You've got all these things, and it makes it a funny movie. I enjoyed the part with the exterminator. The breaking into houses. It's cool. It's funny. It's worth the watch. If you haven't watched it, I will definitely rewatch this over and over. Number 5, Megamind. This is brilliantly done. Will Ferrell, superhero movie. This movie was great. It's up there with The Incredibles, being one of the greatest cartoon superhero movies of all time, besides Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. But Megamind, this was this was great. It took what Incredibles didn't use, like they scrapped it and they used it. But also I think the villain was better in Megamind than it was The Incredibles. That's just my opinion. Number 4, Kung Fu Panda. I love these movies. Well, I love the movies, but I love Kung Fu Panda the most. Kung Fu Panda was great. Was excellent. It's funny to see that he was adopted by a crane, and he's just this pluff of a guy, and this panda, and he's a lazy guy, and he doesn't do anything, and then he learns karate, and then defeat the villain. It's great. It's great. Funny, great story. A lot of action in it for an animated movie. You could tell they took their time with the animation. It was very well done. Now we're getting into the top 3 here. Number 3, Shrek. A lot of you are like, what? Number 3? Yes, I'll tell you why. This is the first DreamWorks animation movie. The very first movie DreamWorks Animation did. There are some flaws in it. Now, a lot of you know, of course, it's not me cool or sounding smart saying this, but Chris Farley was the original voice of Shrek. They took he made about like 75% of the movie, and then instead of getting a voice actor in there, after he passed away, they just scrapped it and they remade the movie with Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy. I think I would have enjoyed the aspect of, okay, we can remake the movie, but let's use the same story, because I want to see the story that they were going to use with Chris Farley. Now, this story was cool. This story was interesting. Fiona was waiting on her Prince Charming to come and kiss her and wake her up and take her from the castle, defeat the dragon. The classic fairy tale stuff that Shrek is known for. There was just a lot of language in it for kids. Like, this was like one of the first animated movies that I remember watching that had curse words in it. Sure, they were using ass in the right definition as calling donkey an ass. But kids, if you're 4 or 5, you don't know that. You're just seeing an animated movie, a cartoon, a hero that you're looking up to because you love the movie, and they're cursing, and so you start doing it. That's the only flaw I have with it. Other than that, the movie was great. It was funny. It's weird to see an ogre used into this perspective as the hero, and I think that's what makes the movie so great. Number 2, Madagascar. Madagascar is one of those brilliantly done movies. I love the fact that they took these comedians and they put these comedians as voices, not just one as in Jerry Seinfeld in a B movie or Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy and Shrek, but they took all of these. They took Jada Pinkett, they took Chris Rock, Ben Stiller, David Schwimmer, Cedric the Entertainer. They took them all and they put them into one big movie. And if you know their voices from just watching stand up or watching their movies and just knowing who they are, the movie is just funny. And it's like watching them as cartoons. They made Chris Rock look, or they made the zebra look just like Chris Rock. They made, these characters, to me, the Madagascar characters, they look like who they're being played by. Like Alex the Lion looks like Ben Stiller. Gloria the Hippo looks like Jada Pinkett a little bit. Marty looks exactly like Chris Rock. Marlin the giraffe looks like David Schwimmer. It was a fun movie, and it left you on a cliffhanger at the end, and then that's where the second one picks up. The first Madagascar was great. They're running from the cops, running from the paparazzi. Crazy to think that they took these animals and they made them into criminals. Crazy. And number 1, Shrek 2. Shrek 2 is something unbelievably done that they should not have done because it was just so fantastic. Shrek 2 took all these fantasies, took all of these fairy tales, and they morphed it into one giant movie. I love the fact that they took the potions and they were trying to find the right potion to turn Shrek human because they did not think that Fiona loved Shrek anymore after she went home to far, far away. And he met the king and the queen and he turned himself human and he turned Donkey human. Great plot. Great plot twist. You didn't think it was happening. Then you realize that she really does love him as an ogre. It's amazingly done. It is. And then they had the giant gingerbread. Man, the final scene, the final 30 minutes of Shrek 2 is like the final ending of any animated movie you want to see. Shrek 2 is beyond brilliantly created and made, and the voice acting is perfect. The animation is perfect. There's not a flaw in the animation. The animation is beautiful. The story is beautiful. Unbelievable. The fairy godmother was a great villain. Great villain. She's not like them other villains that just do things here and there. She was manipulating the entire story, which is what a villain does. And I think it was brilliantly done. Brilliantly. Well, guys, I have ranked all 41 of the Dreamworks Animation Studio movies. Took me 45 minutes to do that. I tried to, and if I was a little slow or a little fast on certain things, forgive me. I was trying to rush through this as fast as possible because I could have spent 5 minutes on each movie and we would have been here over a long time. We would have been here a long time. All right. So thanks for listening in for the podcast. Thanks for supporting the show. Thanks for buying Danos. You can go buy Danos right now. Thanks to Danos for supporting the podcast. Thanks to everyone who has subscribed to the YouTube channel that I'm not even pushing, and it's doing great things. Thanks for the follows over on TikTok at the Hodgepodge Podcast. Thanks to anyone that is listening to this or took time to listen to this. It's really much appreciative. So, enjoy, and as I always say, frown less.